program is brought to you in living color.
Kennedy died at 1 p.m.
Once time, there were two little girls who lived in Louisiana.
And now we're pleased to bring you our feature presentation. Every day, our senses are being constantly bombarded by subliminal messages that are found in TV, movies, and advertisements. The subliminal messages we are subjected to are unrecognizable by the conscious mind and only recognizable in our subconscious mind. The messages and imagery are passively absorbed and then stored in our subconscious, where propagandists deliberately implant artificial thoughts, which in turn can affect our actions and attitudes later in life. Experiments have shown that less than 1 minute after the viewer begins to watch television, the brain switches from beta-level consciousness, associated with active and logical thought, to alpha level, which is associated with passive acceptance and suggestibility. This is why advertisers spend billions of dollars a year on commercials, as well as product placement within TV shows. Political messages are implanted in fictional TV programs as the relaxed, meditative state of the viewer is receptive to the programming. One example is AMC's Breaking Bad television series, as it depicts a meth villain as a Ron Paul supporter.
I looked him up. It was one of these physicists, one of Hitler's guys, a physicist named Werner Heisenberg. Real cute, huh?
In a basic college-level marketing class, in your first year of radio, television, and film, at least for me, and then I've seen some other textbooks and curriculum and found it's also in those, but most RTF schooling teaches you that they have had subliminals for at least 70 years in the United States and Europe. And so, yes, there is subliminal messaging everywhere. It is all over the place. It's an ad.
For a long time, you've heard me talk about building your own food. Welcome, my friends. It is Friday, June 8th, 2012. I'm your host, Alex Jones, and we're going to be live here for the next 3 hours today. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Well, where to begin? You've noticed that I've been somewhat silent about Ron Paul and his campaign the last few months because I could read the tea leaves and tell where all of this was headed and going, and I was just going to wait to watch it unfold before commenting. Because I've learned that people who are totally dedicated to something and who then will perceive a betrayal do not want to hear it early. They want to be betrayed where it's completely clear, out in the open, and I thought I would stay out of the way of that disaster. That said, I think Ron Paul is a good person and has a great voting record. Senator Rand Paul is a great person and has a very good voting record. I understand the politics they're involved in, and people who love Dr. No, Ron Paul's nickname for voting no on almost everything, need to understand that now there's massive political capital locked up inside of Ron Paul and Rand Paul, and that now they have literally more than 30, 40 million Americans behind them. And from Ron Paul's perspective and Rand Paul's perspective, if they don't work through the Republican Party, that entire movement will just dissipate into space. I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm not saying I totally disagree with that. But I historically have a pretty good understanding of how this is going to end up. And so I'm going to tell you today where all this is going to go. On record, I have told Richard Reeves and other big Ron Paul supporters in our office that, hey, Ron Paul's great. He exposes the private Federal Reserve. He exposes how big money and taxation gets transferred in corporate welfare. But I said, get ready. He will never use those delegates to try to challenge Mitt Romney because Paul understands that the media would spin it that Ron Paul was trying to steal an election. And I said, please, to my crew and everybody else who was all lined up shocked this morning saying, you're right, you're right. I said, hey, there's no point in doing 500 Ron Paul packages a week. There's no point in endlessly covering it because it's going to be a train wreck. This is what is going to happen. Well, exactly what I said is now happening. And it's not because I'm a rocket scientist. It's because I live in the real world. Now, if you go to Infowars.com, you can see the news article that Paul Watson has done, a balanced, focused report. Ron Paul supporters decry Rand's endorsement of Romney. Majority accused Kentucky senator of selling out to Republican establishment. Now, what's happened is Ron Paul is preparing to recede, and Rand Paul is going to be making all the announcements. Rand Paul is going to be the big speaker at the RNC. That's the plan, not Ron Paul. Rand Paul may still be offered the VP slot with Mitt Romney. That's what's really going on here. Now, I want to be clear. I still reserve judgment on all of this. I understand the thought processes of Ron Paul and Rand Paul and the people advising them. I understand the process. They're looking at tens of millions of awake Americans. They're looking at the fact that the Republican establishment stole Iowa, stole Maine, stole Nevada. They know how the media works. They're not ever going to be able to get that message out. Even when the New York Times came out and said, yeah, Ron Paul really won these states, the system even itself admitted that that happened. You noticed that Ron Paul did not come out and make a big issue out of it because he understood that it would be spun that he was basically a sore loser. And I'm going to shoot a special video after the show today that'll air on the Nightly News where I'm going to directly address Ron Paul. But I've been exhausted from the trip, being out of town at Bilderberg. I've been going to bed at about 9 o'clock at night. And so I missed the announcement last night and only got it this morning when Aaron Dykes was calling me at about 7 a.m. when I woke up. I ended up getting about 4 hours sleep a night at Bilderberg. And so I'm simply recharging my batteries. When I actually go to bed early at night, that's an Alex Jones vacation. And I got up and I just knew all this was coming. And it's going to be very, very destructive at one level. And it's going to be very disillusioning at another. And I don't think it has to be that way. I mean, I've said over and over again on air when people are like, why aren't you covering the delegate process more? I've said, well, he's not getting anywhere near a majority of delegates, right at about 20%. And if he goes and tries to contest things, it's going to be spun that he's going against what the majority wanted, even if they originally stole it from him early on. And I don't see Ron Paul doing that. I see them trying to get some things into the platform, which can be ignored and are ignored. I see maybe a cabinet position for Ron Paul or a VP for Rand. And I've said that 6 months ago. And that's what's being jockeyed for here right now. And so I'm open-minded on this. I know my gut doesn't like it, but I'm saying, okay, does Ron Paul just fade off? Do we just have the Kentucky Senator Rand Paul up there? Does Ron Paul come out and say he doesn't like Mitt Romney? And then general Republicans, remember, this isn't 3 or 4 years ago. This is now, with everybody hating Obama, all the hate being on Obama, Obama being revealed as a globalist. That hasn't been fully revealed yet with Mitt Romney. It's the season of hating Obama. And so a lot of people are getting behind Mitt Romney just because they hate Obama. Like a lot of people got behind Obama just because they hated George W. Bush. And I had to be there to say, no, Obama's bought and paid for by the very same special interest as Bush. He will expand the police state, the wars, the warrantless spying, the secret arrest, the torture. He'll keep Gitmo open. He'll hire nothing but lobbyists. He'll be more secretive. All of that happened. I made the Obama deception while he was president-elect. It came out in early March, just a few months after he was in office, and it is like you're watching someone who got in a time machine and predicted exactly what would happen. So now I need to come out, I guess, with a film called The Left-Right Deception, or The Republican-Democrat Deception. By the way, Jesse Ventura is giving us one of the first interviews, a full hour on Tuesday. This officially comes out Monday, but you can order it now at Infowars.com. It's Demo Crips and Republicans. He told me this name about a year ago when he started writing it. And Ventura's new book, get it first, discounted at Infowars.com. This is really the issue. If you just attack Obama, people think you hate black people. If you just attack Mitt Romney, they think, oh my gosh, you must be an insider commie. No, both of them are Bain Capital, Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo. It's the same deal. And it's just gangs that get together in their big commission meetings and scam the American people. And if you do get up to the top and don't follow orders, you get Kennedy'd or you get politically destroyed. And undoubtedly at Bilderberg, we're talking about wanting to kill Ron Paul at the Bilderberg meeting, according to Tucker and other sources we have. Our other sources didn't confirm the stuff about wanting to kill him and his supporters. They confirmed they were cussing Ron Paul and seeing those out there protesting him as the bad guys. Ron Paul spearheaded exposing the New World Order. Ron Paul spearheaded exposing the Federal Reserve. And now Ron Paul and the Liberty Movement, through Rand and Ron, has all this incredible political capital. And so looking through Ron Paul and Rand Paul's eyes, do they try to get Rand positioned in 4 years to run and win as president, or do they get him in there as vice president or a cabinet position? That's the idea. How do they take that giant grassroots capital, and how do they take over the Republican Party? Well, I'll say this, and I'm not somebody who yells at people who are in the arena, but it's almost like there's sabotage in there, the way this stuff is announced. The way they came out and said, hey, we're going to stop campaigning in these states, and then spun it that they didn't mean it like that, that the campaign was still going. So the message was, yeah, Romney, we're quietly conceding to you, but hey, supporters, keep giving us money and get out there and get us the delegates because we're still going to win. And I was like, that's what I don't like. If you want to know what I don't like, and I'm going to talk about this more today, it's that politics was played with the constitutionalist, libertarian, Americana, patriot movement. And I sat there and I watched it, and I said, is that Jesse Benton? I mean, and I said, you know, Jesse's not a bad guy, but I said, this really stinks. And I just wouldn't talk. I just went into a neutral mode, and I had Salon and Washington Post and all them out there asking me about this at Bilderberg, and I just said, no, Rand Paul, good. And I said, I got to sit here and watch. Now, right now, the jury's still out, and I'm watching this, and I'm understanding their thought processes. But I don't agree with it because there's no way Mitt Romney's going to bring Rand Paul in or Ron Paul in and let them actually go against the globalist agenda. This is a one-way street. The rhetoric may be that, oh, yes, you're influencing us. And I talked to high-level Republicans in the media over the weekend. I'll just leave it at that. When I was in Virginia, went out to dinner with some, and they said, listen, yeah, Ron Paul ought to try to influence Mitt because he's got a lot of good ideas. And where do you stand on this? You know, Ron Paul